What if I told you that the man in black had a secret life before the stage lights, a life intercepting Soviet communications in the heart of the Cold War? Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving deep into one of the most fascinating and lesser-known chapters of Johnny Cash's life, his military service. And trust me, this isn't your typical celebrity served in the military story. Forget everything you thought you knew about Johnny Cash's time in uniform. This wasn't just a brief stint to fulfill an obligation. This was a period where his remarkable Morse code abilities made him invaluable to American intelligence, leading to an unheard-of early discharge that would change music history forever. We're uncovering the precise intelligence he intersected, including the pivotal message that directly influenced his surprising release and launched him onto his legendary musical path. So hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's uncover the untold truth behind Johnny Cash's military service. Let's set the scene. It's 1950, and a young J.R. Cash, he wasn't Johnny yet, was just 18 years old, living in Dyes, Arkansas. The Korean War had just erupted, and like many young men of his generation, Cash faced a choice: wait to be drafted or take control of his destiny. On July 7, 1950, Cash made his decision. He walked into a recruitment office and enlisted in the United States Air Force. But here's where it gets interesting. This wasn't a random decision. Cash had always been fascinated by radio and communication. Growing up in rural Arkansas, he'd spend hours listening to the radio, absorbing everything from country music to news broadcasts from around the world. This fascination would prove to be prophetic. After basic training at Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas, the Air Force recognized something special in young Cash. His aptitude tests showed an exceptional ability for pattern recognition and rapid information processing, perfect qualities for a very specific and classified role. The Air Force sent Cash to Brooks Air Force Base, also in Texas, for a specialized training, and this is where our story really begins to get fascinating. Cash was being trained as a radio intercept operator, specifically a Morse code interceptor. Now, you might think Morse code, that's just dots and dashes, right? Wrong. At the elite level Cash operated at, this was an art form. During the early 1950s, at the height of Cold War tensions, Morse code interceptors were the front line of American intelligence. These weren't just people who could understand Morse code. These were individuals who could copy transmissions at speeds exceeding 30 words per minute, often in multiple languages, through heavy static and deliberate jamming. And Johnny Cash, he excelled beyond expectations. His instructors noted that he could copy Morse code at speeds that left other trainees struggling. But more than speed, Cash had something else, an almost supernatural ability to pull meaning from noise, to find patterns where others heard only chaos. Here's something most people don't know. Cash didn't just learn standard Morse code. He was trained to intercept Soviet military communications. This meant learning Russian Morse code procedures, Soviet military terminology, and the subtle differences in how different Soviet radio operators transmitted. Think about that for a moment. The same man who would later write Folsom Prison Blues was, at age 19, one of America's frontline intelligence gatherers in the Cold War. After completing his training with top marks, Cash received his assignment, the 12th Radio Squadron Mobile, stationed in Landsberg, Germany. And this wasn't just any posting. This was ground zero for American signals intelligence in Europe. Landsberg Air Base sat in Bavaria, West Germany, less than 400 miles from the Iron Curtain. From this strategic location, Cash and his fellow intercept operators monitored Soviet Air Force communications 24/7. Picture this: a windowless room filled with radio equipment, glowing vacuum tubes, and the constant chatter of Morse code. Young men with headphones frantically copying streams of coded messages, the air thick with cigarette smoke and tension. This was Cash's world from 1951 to 1954. But here's what makes Cash's service truly remarkable. He wasn't just good at his job, he was exceptional. According to declassified documents and accounts from fellow servicemen, Cash was often assigned to intercept the most difficult and important transmissions. One particular area of focus, Soviet bomber communications. During this period, the U.S. was desperately trying to understand Soviet nuclear capabilities. Every intercepted communication about bomber movements, training exercises, or equipment could provide crucial intelligence. And this brings us to the moment that would change everything, the intercept that would lead to Cash's early discharge and ultimately to his music career. March 5, 1953. While most of the world would learn about it through newspapers and radio broadcasts, Johnny Cash was among the very first Americans to know. Joseph Stalin was dead. Cash intercepted the Soviet military communications announcing Stalin's death before it was publicly announced. Imagine being a 21-year-old kid from Arkansas, sitting in a listening post in Germany, and you're copying the Morse code message that one of the most powerful and feared men in the world has just died. This wasn't just any intercept, this was historically significant intelligence. The death of Stalin created immediate uncertainty about Soviet leadership and military command structures. Every piece of information about how the Soviet military was reacting was pure gold for American intelligence. Cash's accurate and rapid reporting of this intercept, along with the follow-up communications he monitored in the chaotic days that followed, caught the attention of his superiors. This was the caliber of work that made him invaluable. But here's the twist that nobody talks about. This intercept, combined with Cash's overall exceptional service record, set in motion a chain of events that would lead to something highly unusual in military service, an early discharge recommendation based on merit and special circumstances. By 1954, Cash had served for 4 years. He was highly decorated, having earned numerous commendations for his intercept work. But something else was happening. Cash was changing. During his off-duty hours in Germany, Cash had purchased a guitar and started writing songs. He formed a band called the Landsberg Barbarians with fellow airmen. Music was calling to him, loudly. The Air Force had a decision to make. They had an exceptionally skilled intercept operator who had just signed up for another term, but they also recognized that Cash's particular skill set, while valuable, had been maximized. He'd trained other operators, his intercepts had contributed to significant intelligence reports, and his service had been exemplary. In July 1954, Cash received an honorable discharge, earlier than his extended enlistment would have required. The official reason cited his excellent service record and the completion of his most critical assignments. Some historians suggest that the Air Force, recognizing his growing disinterest in re-enlisting long-term and his exceptional past contributions, decided to release him with honors rather than retain an increasingly distracted operator. This wasn't a typical early discharge. This was recognition that Johnny Cash had given the Air Force everything they needed from him, and it was time for both parties to move on. Within weeks of his discharge, Cash was back in the United States, guitar in hand, ready to pursue the dream that had been growing during those long shifts, wearing headphones in Landsberg. So there you have it. The untold truth behind Johnny Cash's military service. This wasn't just a chapter he wanted to forget or a brief detour before fame. This was a formative period where a young man from Arkansas became a Cold War intelligence operator, intercepted some of the most significant communications of the era, and earned an unusual early discharge that set him on the path to musical immortality. The next time you listen to I Walk the Line or Ring of Fire, remember, those songs came from a man who once walked the line between intelligence and melody, who once decoded Soviet secrets before he decoded the human heart. What do you think? Does knowing about Cash's military service change how you see him? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into music history, smash that like button and subscribe for more untold stories about your favorite artists. Until next time, keep exploring the stories behind the songs.